Hi, everybody. Welcome to It's Sybil. I am Sybil Wilkes, and it is a full, fun, packed show today. We welcome you, George Wallace, on your day here with us. We appreciate your coming today.
I am so happy to be here. My friends are with me today. Former mayor of Atlanta, Mr. Bill Campbell is here. He is a comedian. He wants to be a comedian because he's so funny. He's going to snap on me in any minute now. I know that.
I can't wait.
And we got your great Marsha Warfield. Everybody's been talking today. Somebody said a stupid ass question. Is that Marsha Warfield from Night Court? No, she's from Judge Judy. I told him she's from Judge Judy.
Welcome back, Marsha Warfield. We're glad to have you.
Glad to be here. It's coincidentally, I want to be mayor of Atlanta. So,
so we'll have a mishmash up.
I want to be on Night Court.
There you go. There you go. Marsha Warfield, we want to welcome you back and also congratulate you on your recent honor. We know that you were honored by at Hope Flood's Comics Rock Convention. You were one of the honorees there. Congratulations.
Thank you. And you have to now in every introduction refer to me as Living Legend.
Living Legend Marsha Warfield.
There you have it.
Okay. All right.
Well, I told him to stop that because everybody knows legend means here's an old man. Here's an old man.
Just old. That's all. Everybody else is dead, so I'll do it.
And Marsha, I was supposed to have introduced Marsha, but they changed the date on me and I had another date. So, but I'm sorry I missed that. And congratulations from me, Marsha.
Thank you. You know who filled in for you? You know Brad Sanders.
Oh,
my God, Brad Sanders.
Yes.
God bless him. Yeah, Marsha.
The first night I went on stage. So.
Oh, wow.
You know, we missed you. But it worked out.
And Sybil, those are the first two I saw when I moved to California to come to the store. Brad Sanders and Marsha Warfield.
And well, give us a ride home.
I took you to Fat Burger first.
Okay, so I had never been in a pink Lincoln.
Marsha, they don't know about that.
George, were you a Mary Kay employee or something?
Tell them, Marsha.
Well, George was driving. He was the only comedian with a car, and he had a purple pink Lincoln and pants to match.
That's
it was the 70s. We all had that.
Yeah, well, yeah. No, I
he
guess.
still has them.
He has them on now.
Well, it is great to have you all here. We really appreciate it. And Mayor Campbell, have you had a good summer?
I've had a terrific summer, actually. My daughter had twins. So we are just having a great time here in Atlanta, just watching the little kids grow up. And that's been exciting. And of course, we always have a lot going on in Atlanta. George is here. That excites the crowd. And
well, he's
just, you got a mayor's race that's happening here. Very exciting mayor's race. So a lot that's going on, as you can imagine.
And we will talk about that. What do they call you as the grandfather? What do the kids call you, or will call you?
Interestingly enough, we've been trying to work through. What's so funny about that? I have this text message thing with Gail King. She's about to be a grandmother. And she doesn't want to be called Granny, and I don't want to be called Grandpa.
Right.
So we're coming up with different names. Mine is Bobo. That's what I've come up with so far.
I like that.
So just come up with different things. But it's just it's a great joy. See two little kids and they're growing up, and as crazy as this world is, just sort of trying to hope that they'll navigate them and get them on through here. That'll happen pretty soon. You can hear my little dog barking in the background. So that's another added addition.
Right. And that doesn't, and that little animal there wants to be the focus of your attention too. So.
For sure.
And let me say this, Mayor. My cousin is Ahmed Wallace in New Jersey. He says his grandmama name is Aunt Amanda. Is that your grandmother?
Yes, actually it was Amanda Barnes. Absolutely. That's what an amazing thing that is my grandmother.
And so my cousins are related to your cousin. Your family somewhere.
Actually, then she's not. That's not the same one. Not at all. No, never heard of her.
It was Emanda. It was Emanda.
That's exactly right, Marsha. Thank you for clarifying that.
I understand.
Is there such thing as a Mama Nine or something like that?
Or are you still trying to make that connection? The man has told you.
He's got Mary Ann and Annie Butlers. You know them?
I do know them. Yes.
See, you might be my cousin somewhere. Who knows?
Oh
you
my! Aren't you
both
the
my
one?
grandmothers? You know, both my grandmothers had
goodness.
21 kids, and that's 42 kids. So somewhere.
Wow.
And then the initial Wallaces came out of Virginia. Where'd you come from, Mayor? You out of North Carolina or something like that?
Yeah, Raleigh, North Carolina. But my grandfather, my father was from South Carolina, from Lancaster, South Carolina. That's where Amanda Barnes was, out of Lancaster, South Carolina.
Wow. Okay. Wow. So we'll work through these familial agencies here as we go through this afternoon. And I do want to talk to you guys about the things that are going on in the news. So let's talk topics of interest. And I wanted to share with you and get your thoughts on this whole thing with the gymnast, the Olympic gymnast who appeared before the Senate Judiciary Committee, talking about this horrible man, Dr. Larry Nassar, and what he did to them. And not only what he did, but how these young women were so brave and strong enough to report him. And even when they reported him, they allowed him to go free. Yeah. They did not make the reports and make the connection so that this man, even after they made the initial contact with the FBI, he went on and horribly sexually assaulted other young women.
Yeah.
Is that part of the systemic racism? Is this part of the systemic racism back in the day? Well, if they wouldn't report the white man because that's what was happening back in the day.
Well, I don't know if it's racism.
I'm not certain about racism here because most of the gymnasts were actually young white girls. Right. But I will tell you that it's one of the horrible stories, and it's so far-reaching because it went on for years and years. Yeah. I mean, some of these young girls started as 6, 7, 8 years old and went on until they were 16, 17, 18, and the abuse started early. And they were groomed, and then it continued on, and it just was a silence that was so pervasive and so insidious that for it to go on as long. I'm glad he's finally incarcerated, but I will also tell you there are an awful lot of other people that are complicit in this very difficult and ugly story. What they always say is somebody who is molesting a child, that's not the first child when they catch them. And so you know that there were many, many others, and you know that there were other people that were aware of this abuse. And they kept quiet because American gymnastics is very profitable and very successful and on a world stage. And it's just shameful, really. I'm so delighted to see these young girls coming forward. It takes great courage to do that. And finally, this veil of secrecy has been lifted, and these young women can finally find it within themselves to not only express courage, but also to say that we're not going to stand for allowing the association to continue going forward. And as you may know, there have been 2 separate presidents of the association that have always already been eliminated just in the last year. So it just tells you that it's just one of the worst things that's ever happened to American sports.
It really is. And talking about the Olympic Committee themselves, those within the gymnastic community who allowed this to go on, and Simone Biles, most recently, she said that she was coming back to participate in this Olympics so that the story could stay out there, that it would not be buried. And then for her to go through what she did, and for the public to assail her, though, and her character, the way that they did. But God bless her and all of those women who stayed honest and really made enough noise so that some things were happening, and really a damnation to the FBI people who did not follow through on this.
I didn't mean racism, but I mean like that old boys club protecting each other.
Yeah, well, the oppression of women is almost older than racism, and in fact, it has to be. And for these young women to show the strength that they did, I mean, they were very impressive and very resolute and determined to get their story out. And I think they held up well, and I think they have done a service for women everywhere. So they young women, older women can have the confidence
I
going
agree.
forward that their cases will be taken seriously and not as something to protect men from.
Right.
Right.
Which is usually what happens to women who have these kind of stories to tell. These are things that you have to protect men from.
Yeah.
And I think we owe them a debt of gratitude.
Absolutely.
Strength and
Marsha, that's an excellent point, because
considering
as
how
you
young
know, sexism has been around a lot
Sexism.
earlier than racism, and so many women have just endured forever. And there's actually been the confluence of race and sex. I mean, even in our own world, and even in our own race, they wouldn't let Dorothy Height speak at the March on Washington in 1963, and,
Right.
and given her incredible record of civil rights activism. You can go down the line. And the truth of the matter is, for all those who don't know, really, it was women who were the backbone of the civil rights movement. It was the women. I mean, I spoke at Juanita Abernathy's funeral, and she was talking about how she did the daily sheets for the bus boycott in Montgomery.
Right.
And you just think about Rosa Parks. I had the honor of spending a few moments with Rosa Parks in the last chapters of her life. And I will tell you, just think about all these women who are very few are now being heralded, but they were just simply ignored as history was going forward.
Yeah.
And the civil rights movement certainly would not have been successful without so many women, so many young girls who participated and really made it possible for us to be where we are today.
And when you think of it, is it Claudette Claiborne?
The young man, right?
No, this is the young woman who was the initial bus rider who was arrested
before Rosa Parks.
Yeah.
Colvin or Claudette Colvin or something. I can't really remember her name, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. And so this is and when Simone Biles asked what's a girl worth, that just really tore into my heart, because that really is, I think that was at the core of what this whole investigation has brought to the forefront, to the surface, is that they didn't give a damn about these girls. And one FBI agent was going so far as to get a job with the Olympic Committee. He wasn't there to do his job as an FBI employee. He was there to make connections to get onto the next. And so that's why he did not make the effort to bring this to the forefront.
Right.
But here we are now. So, Your Honor, let me talk to you about something going on in your backyard. You have a major election coming up in the city of Atlanta.
Yes.
And for mayor, and that will be in November. But you have almost as many people running for mayor of Atlanta than they had running for governor on the recall ballot in California.
Well, thankfully, we don't have any the same ilk as Mr. Elder, the sage from South Central, as he called himself.
Yes.
Really an embarrassment. But Atlanta is going through a very odd time with our election because there's been no mayor that's not served the full 8-year term.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, Maynard Jackson came back and served even a 3rd-year term after sitting out for 8 years. So Keisha Lance Bottoms, who some of you know from her incredible strength in fighting for sane procedures during the pandemic. And she also, of course, faced all the difficulties with the race issues and the police violence. We had a very tragic shooting here.
Rayshard Brooks and all.
Rayshard Brooks.
Yeah.
So she decided not to run for re-election. And that sort of thrown an awful lot of the traditional election procedures into somewhat of turmoil. So we now have a number of candidates. The president of the city council is running. We also have the former mayor, Kasim Reed, who is a favorite, who is running as well. You have another city council member, Andre Dickens, who is running. Another council member, Antonio Brown, not doing very well at all. And then you have one white candidate, Sharon Gay, who is running. So there really are 5 candidates but for the most part, those that have been at the top of the polls are Kasim Reed and Felicia Moore, who is the president of the city council. I would imagine that they've raised, at least Kasim Reed has raised an incredible amount of money. And so thus far, his commercials are ubiquitous on television. I would say he's, by all the polling that's been done, he is leading. But Felicia Moore is a very strong second. So we'll see what happens. You know, there's an awful lot that will happen between now and Election Day. I will tell you, I don't know that I've ever seen quite as much turmoil that's happened in the world in such a short period of time, from pandemic to politics to turmoil to Trump. All of these things have just thrown everything into an unknown abyss. So I'll say that in the next 2 months, you'll see some sorting out of those who are going to move forward in the mayor's race. I mean,
it'll be a thinning out of the candidates.
The herd will be thinned out for sure.
Yeah,
yes, there's no doubt about it. You know, one of the things, you know, you have to raise a lot of money these days. I mean, look, when Bloomberg ran for mayor in New York City and no one gave him a chance, he spent $100 million of his own money and became mayor. So always money is one of the predominant factors.
Yeah.
But the great thing about Atlanta, as George knows, I mean, George is from Atlanta.
He is the mayor of Atlanta as far as he's concerned.
Well, I mean, look, George, as you all know, I mean, George has been on the front lines for many, many years. George took Harriet Tubman to the prom. So I'm telling you.
Didn't I tell you he wanted to be a comedian? I took him. I'm going to go back to I took your mama to the prom.
You didn't go there, George. I can't believe
always goes back to your mama.
That's where you went. My God.
So much is happening in Georgia.
What I was going to say, see, Marsha, this is what I have to put up with, Marsha.
Harriet Tubman.
Hard to imagine.
Sybil, so much is happening in Georgia. We got the mayor and we got the senator. We got what's that guy named Herschel Walker coming back to Atlanta for? We got so much going on. We got the governor and being black.
Run, Herschel, run. Very much like Forrest Gump.
That's exactly what I said. Go back to Texas. Oh man, this is
run straight back to Texas.
We don't want him. We're good. We're good.
But he's good. That's
got enough craziness.
Mayor, do you think this is Republican tactics? They're trying to get pull away the black votes from Stacey?
Well, look at what happened in California. I mean, look, there's always been a tactic by Republicans that if they can't win with a white candidate, then let's just pick a black candidate who is just as conservative and wacky as they are. And then that will somehow fool black people into thinking that that person really has the same values. And that's what was the demise for the recall effort in California. Right. I never thought it was going to go very far anyway. And that's sort of what's happened here. I mean, Herschel Walker hasn't even lived here for a million years. And in addition to not living here, I mean, quite frankly, he's just not the kind of person that is representative of what we would think of someone who is going to, he's just not very bright, quite frankly.
Right.
And his politics are horrible.
Well, they're Trump-like. They're very Trumpian, aren't they?
And that's why Trump is behind him. And I think that's the kiss of death for many people. And Warnock, who he's running as Reverend Warnock, who is a pastor at Ebenezer, Dr. King's church. He was also John Lewis's pastor. Very thoughtful, polished, and a wonderful orator. And a person who really represents not only the state of Georgia, but also the entire country so well. And that's who he'll be facing. And by all the polling, Herschel Walker is just running rampant, as you would imagine, using the sort of sports analogies over the Republican field. So we'll see what that matchup yields.
So, well, I think we're not going to call it Georgia blue. I think it's going to be Georgia black.
Well, let's hope that
the governor, senator, mayor.
I mean, you got so much. You've got so much there. I mean, it's just a cornucopia of election possibilities there in the state of Georgia and now with Atlanta. And the mayoral race is the first up in November, correct?
Yeah, that's the mayor's race is an off year, so they will actually run in November, and then a year from now will be in 22 will be where Warnock runs for re-election here. We were very fortunate to get John Ossoff.
Yeah.
If you can believe it, I actually knew when he was born, John Ossoff, and you've seen him just develop, and he is going to be a senator for 6 years. So that alone is special. The thing about Atlanta, as George knows, and as you know, Sybil and Marsha, black people vote in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And what we also saw in this last election, the migration of Black people from Atlanta proper to the suburbs has been an explosion of African-American leadership in all these predominant Republican counties: Cobb County, Clayton County, Douglas County, Henry County, Rockdale County, all these places that were rural or Republican and conservative. They're now all being led by African Americans, and that's tremendous. And I think you're going to see the kind of turnout. Of course, Stacey Abrams is sort of the spiritual leader of the Get Out the Vote effort here, and has done such a tremendous job. They've got a great article of her, I think, she's on the cover of another magazine. She's just been tremendous in helping to get the vote out. And of course, many people wonder if she'll run for governor against Kemp here in 2022.
Let's talk about what's really going on as we like to take a deeper dive into some questions. Sometimes they're fun, sometimes they're more thoughtful. And this week we have had a series of questions that have been related to our Yogi's Jewels. That's our moment of reflection and inspiration. And so today's question, I'm going to ask all of you to think about this and to get some responses. If you knew the last time you would see a friend, what would you tell her or him? And I will tell you that personally, I've had a number of losses of friends this past week, both from coronavirus as well as from cancer, and young people too. Our former colleague in Chicago, her name is Jamila Muhammad. She worked in Chicago and in radio and in the record business, and she was 51 and died of colon cancer. George, as you know, this week, and Marsha, Norm Macdonald has passed. And so at 61, which is much too young, and he had a long fight against cancer. So I know that we often say, and I know there was a book, Every Goodbye Ain't Gone, but I'm asking you just to think about your relationships with people and how sometimes we're just so casual in our saying goodbyes and we don't know that that is the last goodbye. But thinking back to you, and the reason why this question really hit me with you, Mayor Campbell, is I was thinking about you when you gave the eulogy at Congressman Lewis's funeral. And you talked about what he pulled you close to him and told you, giving you your marching orders. You don't think about that in your day to day, but certainly those are very special moments. And as you know, in his closing days. So think about this in terms of you, George. What do you think?
Oh boy, this is pretty tough. I have a great life, and I think I could say to that person, I hope you enjoyed life like I did, because I'm certainly have been the most blessed person you have ever met. I just love life.
But what if they hadn't, George? What if they had not?
That's the point I'm getting to. That's why you should think you should live every day like it's your last day. And I try to present myself like last time I saw you, I wanted to say thank you. That's why I always say, I love you, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it.
But you say that to everybody, so that wouldn't be special. That would. Trying to trick people. It's my job to live a life so you can say I appreciated him and you appreciated me. That's my job. So when you leave me, I don't know what's the last time I'm going to see you, but you got to say he was a good guy. And that's on my part. That's what I'm responsible for. My job, my purpose in life is to give back. So I'll give you my love back, and I hope you give me your love back. And if it's the last time I saw you, both of us are going to remember good things. A good life. Enjoy your life, no matter what you do, and keep laughter in your life. Keep laughing, no matter what. When you stop laughing, you stop living. All right. Okay. Marsha Warfield, what do you think?
Well, I had to say goodbye to a friend just recently. Marky Post passed away.
Oh, right. Yeah.
At her celebration of life. And
just for folks who may not remember, Marky Post was your co-star in Night Court.
Christine Sullivan, the court, that's a district attorney, defense attorney. And the month before, Charlie Robinson passed away.
Yeah, that was this year too. Yeah.
And I have, because I never found a religion that spoke to women, I made one of my own. I asked the universe said, God is a Black woman. She looks a lot like you. And
Love that.
I founded the Church of Jesus. And it's based on the premise that she is us, that we are she. We are the goddess. Life mothers bring life from spirit to flesh. We live our lives, and at the end of our lives, we return to spirit and meet our ancestors. So I would tell anybody in their goodbyes and your hellos that this time on earth is the time we get between being part of the universe of spirit, that part that we can always carry with us, that part that gives us light in our eyes even when we cry. And so if you have that understanding, and you could look at every woman as the goddess she is, and look and understand that means she has conferred divinity onto all of her offspring, that we are all walking among gods, and we are all gods in ourselves. And if you can see that in yourself and start to celebrate that in yourself, then everybody benefits and everything is good. And I think that's what we miss now. Our spiritual path is always negative, what we shouldn't do, what we shouldn't go, what we should. Let's start talking about the God in you that makes you good. And so instead of saying God bless, I say may good bless you. Bless in abundance from now until you meet spirit and join your ancestors.
Yeah. Yeah, that's special. I love your new religion. And it may not be new for you, but certainly for us, I like that. And may good bless you. I love that. Absolutely. Mayor Campbell, what do you think?
Sybil, I have had the privilege of being with so many people in their last moments. And I've been to so many funerals. It's been just remarkable. I was with C.T. Vivian, who died on the same day as John Lewis.
That's right.
Yes.
One in the morning and one at night.
One in the morning, one at night. And so I think you have to try to find some spiritual connection, because death is, although it is not final, it is certainly the end of this part of your life. And just trying to find some way to comfort them, to talk about things that were important, whether it's family or cause, or in George's case, I think he's absolutely right, just trying to bring some sense of enjoyment or humor. It's a very tough thing when you're saying goodbye to so many people as I have over my career. And I can't say, Sybil, that there's any one phrase or one thought that it works. And I will also say this, when you're talking about the fact that people have been passing away, I mean, some are passing away needlessly.
Yeah.
Let's make certain that we understand this. Right now, the lowest number of vaccinated people are African Americans.
Still tragedy.
So when you're talking about people that are passing away from COVID, it's absurd, really, because it's preventable. I just find it almost remarkable that people are dying needlessly. There's whoever heard of this, right? I've never even heard of anything like this, and it's our people. Forget the conservative Republicans, right? Who have a political agenda,
right?
And many of them, while they might proclaim they're anti-vax, they're getting it privately, like Trump did, right?
Right.
In secret, and then pretend like you didn't get it, right? But for Black people, I went to the Steak and Shake the other day. They had great hamburgers. Went there the other day. Lady said, "Oh, Mayor Campbell used to come to this other location." And I said, "Great." She said, "Well, I said, well, how are you doing?" She said, "I lost my mother and my sister to COVID. And they weren't vaccinated." And I find it remarkable. And in addition to being remarkable, you have these people, Nicki Minaj, who has 33 million followers, is trying to somehow dissuade Black people from getting the virus by this insanity.
Ridiculous.
This absolutely ridiculous insanity. Now, think about this. This is the person who I just can't even understand why anybody would ever think about listening to her in terms of medical issues or health issues, right? And she put something for 33 million followers, which is even morphed way beyond that. The prime minister, where is she? Is she in Trinidad right now?
Yeah, Trinidad and Tobago.
Trinidad and Tobago.
Where
The
her
prime
cousin
minister,
supposedly
actually, the health
lives,
minister of the country, actually has to make a statement that her comments are absurd. Biden at the White House and Fauci are talking about they're going to either invite her there. That would be an absolute bizarre thing, right? But they're trying to respond to this insanity.
Yeah.
Why are we allowing ourselves to die needlessly? I mean, there's so many. Look, we die on everything. We're number one.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Every bad health thing, diabetes, cancer,
heart disease,
problems, in pregnancy, everything,
mortality, everything else,
every single thing. But this is one where there is a vaccine that's free. You can go into grocery stores, you can go into supermarkets, you can go into any pharmacy, and they're giving it to you. Churches are doing it. They're actually paying you to save yourself.
Right.
This is like they're giving like $1,000 for you to save yourself. Who ever heard of such insanity? And we still aren't doing it. So I hate that we have to veer off from your very spiritual thought to saying to all the people that are listening, if you're not vaccinated, you need to do so immediately, because not only are you threatening yourself, but more than that, you're threatening others. And people say, Nicki Minaj actually had the nerve to say, I need to do some more research on what's in the vaccine. What? What's in the lemonade you're drinking? And you want to talk about what? So what I'm saying to you is, we have got to push our people to get vaccinated. Yeah. If we get nothing on this show but tell every single person, please get vaccinated, because not just for you. I mean, even those people who are so selfish, and I hear these people say, well, they force you to wear a seatbelt.
Right.
We're so crazy. Everybody has to wear a seatbelt, right? Because it not only protects you, but it means that the whole society doesn't have to take care of you if you're in an accident and you're not buckled in. They don't allow drunk driving. There's a million things that you can't do that are not just for your safety, but for the safety of others.
Think about
this is the most insane.
How many shots did we get for school? How many shots did we get for school?
Oh my God, they won't even let you go to school. They're having these crazy things where they are, number one, these parents who are protesting about masks, they were protesting about virtual school. Right. And so now these teachers saying, we want you back to school. And by the way, I happen to believe that's the real reason for this increase in crime by these young Black people, because they have not been in school. And for all of us who know, everybody who knows, except for George, never went to school, all of us know one thing, right? The one thing that we know is the most important person for the development of our people is our teachers. Yeah. Number one, way past parents, way past ministers, way past social workers, it's teachers. They have you there from 8 until 3, 8 until 4. In George's case, I mean, George was at school year round. He repeated the second grade 7 times. So the thing I'm trying to tell you is the fact that we haven't had these children in school for so long meant they were running buck wild, right? No stability, no education, no foundation. So when you get the opportunity so that's what's really the problem. So now you say, come back to school, wear a mask. I don't want my child to wear a mask. What? So you don't get vaccinated so that you die. You don't wear the mask, you die. I mean, I must tell you,
it's insane.
Of all the things I've ever seen in my whole life, for our people, I can't speak for anybody else, but for our people to not be vaccinated. And sometimes you say, I run to people and say, oh yeah, you know, right, Mayor, I know. I mean, I want to go. What? They've been given away for free since January. If you go to 7-Eleven right now, there'll be a line of about 15 people. Give me a pick 6. Give me a cross 4. Give me a block 7.
And a pack of cigarettes.
That's first.
Marsha, what were you saying?
Nothing has confounded me more in my whole life than this.
we have to acknowledge the history of medical research and the abuses that have been inflicted on Black people, from the common Tuskegee to the gynecological experiments that were done on women who had no anesthesiology. They were just experimented on. And there are just tremendous numbers of medical abuses that the Black community has suffered. So there is a basis for skepticism. But that being said, if you don't get the vaccine, you are Tuskegeeing yourself.
Right.
Because it's not about not getting treatment or injecting syphilis into people. It was like not giving
it to them. Yeah.
The medicine that they could have gotten. And so don't Tuskegee yourself. If you are a woman and you go to a gynecologist, you have no leg to stand on to say that you don't know what's in the vaccine. And if you have a problem with the government, why are you waiting for government approval? That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Arguments don't make sense.
Yeah.
What makes sense is if you're vaccinated, you have a much, 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 much less chance of dying, of ending up in the hospital, of ending up with long COVID and losing loved ones. So get vaccinated so the virus can stop growing, so that we can
get back to our lives.
I simply would just look at the numbers.
If you have to take a shot every year, take a shot. Take your flu shot. Take your pneumonia shot. I'm over 65. If they got a shot, I want it.
Let's
I want that one too. So it's not about having you be chipped by Bill Gates or whatever the things are. And it's not about your Blackness, because sometimes, you can use people will use your Blackness to make you stupid. Don't fall for it.
Right.
Understand that right now, everybody is getting the same shot.
Yes.
Everybody is getting the same medicine.
That's right.
And the way to save your life and everybody else's is to just go get the shot. It's much, much, much better.
Can you just simply look at the numbers and see who's dying, see who's not dying? Just simply look at the numbers.
George, I need for us to move away because we have to talk about the newsletter.
Okay, let's do it.
The What You Need to Know newsletter in terms of what's going on. If for those of you who don't know, please subscribe to our free newsletter, What You Need to Know. We are trying to super serve the African-American community with the stories that we curate here. And let's talk about this voting bill that can either one of the two voting bills that have been presented and passed in the House and stalled as they get to the Senate. Mayor Bill Campbell. Now they have come up. They're still trying to work with Joe Manchin. God knows why. But they're still trying to make him, be responsible for the passage of this bill. And now they've changed the name of the bill. For the People Act is now the Freedom to Vote Act. And it still includes a lot of the same stuff that was in the other two.
The John Lewis bill.
Exactly. Exactly. So give him these opportunities to create his own bill, if you will, but also make him responsible for getting those 10 Republicans that they need to get the bill passed in the United States Senate, or let's get rid of the filibuster. What do you think? What's going to happen? Looking at your mirror ball there.
Well, let me just tell you something. There are not 10 Republicans that are going to vote for any of those bills. So let's just move past that nonsense. They aren't going to get, McConnell already said there's not 10 Republicans. I don't know. There's 2 Republicans.
Right.
As opposed to 10. Now, what they could do is to carve out, they actually carved out these exceptions in the filibuster rule for Supreme Court justices, as an example. They don't have a filibuster for Supreme Court justices. Right. So one of the things that they're urging for Manchin, and you say, well, why they keep trying? But the only reason they're trying because we've only got 50. It's 50-50.
Yeah, that's it. That's true.
Again, everybody, you do understand that this is a historical relic that makes a place like Montana, which has 500,000 people, have the same number of senators as California, which has got 40 million people. What sense does that make? It's like insanity in and of itself. It's not representation in any proper sense, but they could carve out an exception for a voting rights bill, because what's happening in this sort of tribute to Trump right?
Yeah.
They're still doing it, which is okay. We're now like almost a year into the Biden presidency, and they're still talking about let's count the votes. I mean, the Arizona was embarrassing.
Let's go to Pennsylvania now.
In Michigan, this is like in Pennsylvania. This is the absolute insanity. But let me just say this: we are in a battle for the heart and soul of America, and let there be no mistake about it. You saw it on January the 6th. You're seeing it in this insanity where they're going to have another demonstration. They're now trying to make those people who broke into the Capitol, killed the police officers, ruined the building, tried to thwart democracy. They're now having a rally saying that those people are political prisoners. I mean, this is, who ever heard of such nonsense? But I'm just saying, we cannot rest because they're not resting.
Right.
They're arming themselves. I mean, I'm not saying arming as in figurative arming. I mean, they're arming themselves, and they're gutting the voting rights. You know, no more Sunday voting in Texas. The things that had a lot of African Americans voting. No, you can't give water to people who are standing in line in Georgia. All these things were done, by the way, in Texas. Trump won Texas. Think about this. The same people that are saying that the elections were somehow rigged or there's a problem, but in the states where he even won, they're trying to redo it.
Yeah.
So I think it just tells us that unless Manchin says we're going to carve out an exception for voting rights, and that will allow the feds to undo these things that have been done in Arizona and Georgia and Texas, and almost invariably they'll be done in other states, some of these other Republican-led states, before it's all over with. And it's all done to minimize African-American voting. That's what this is. When they talk about Jim Crow, this is exactly how Jim Crow worked. John Lewis would tell me these stories, and which is so amazing. You know, one of the things that's been so important for me is to have the opportunity to talk to Dr. Abernathy and John Lewis and C. Vivian, Andy Young. I mean, these people who were like fighting, giving their lives for us to be able to vote. And you talk to them, and John would talk about that they would take people and they would say, you know, you need to recite the U.S. Constitution word for word. And women who had a PhD weren't able to register to vote. And it's the same thing. This is just old wine in a new bottle. They found another way to keep us from voting, right? The old way was you have to pay a tax. Couldn't afford the tax. You had to count the bubbles in the soap.
Right.
You had to be able to count the jelly beans.
Yeah.
All these kind of things. And they've just simply replaced that by simply saying, well, you know, we won't allow you to register up until the time. We won't allow you to have voting on Sunday. No souls to the polls. All these things are simply an effort to keep us from voting. And what we can all do, just like the vaccine, it's free. Voting is free. They don't charge you to vote. They don't charge you for the vaccine. So these two things alone could change the whole tenor because it is a battle. And I don't know that we're not going to see a lot more in this coming year in terms of this Trumpism and the craziness and the insanity and the violence. So I think we just got to really try to find a way to work through all these things, Sybil.
I don't know if you know Joe Manchin, but you know politicians like Joe Manchin. Do you think that they can work out a deal to have this carve out to take away the filibuster for this vote?
Absolutely. Well, interestingly enough,
just with these characters.
Yes, they could. And one of the things is now being bandied about with him because he actually worked hard on this effort to craft this new bill. They were surprised. They actually, Senator Warnock, by the way, was one of the leaders in this effort from Georgia, as you know, George. So they crafted this new effort, a new bill, which he signed on. Now, they've given him the task of trying to find 10 Republicans.
Right.
I mean, that's like trying to find, you know, a tooth that fits in George's mouth. There's not one in there. I mean, they're all false. There's no way to do that. Right. So the point is, they could easily look at those teeth. You know, those are not real teeth. So the point is, you could easily carve out an exception just for that, right, for voting rights. And they're hoping that Manchin will go along with that and we'll be able to try to thwart some of these efforts at bridging our voting.
Wow. Marsha, are you seeing differences in Nevada in terms of, especially for Black and Brown voters and their participation, not only from this last election, but as you are going forward into perhaps the midterms?
I don't know what Vegas is a town of people non-residents. I mean, we're a
Gotcha.
visitor
Yeah.
town, so the politics don't really translate to community, or at least the community I'm in. It's I'm more online, and I'm seeing the online responses of people, how they're looking at the landscape and what's going on and stuff. And I think that we need to kind of stay active and stay on people and encourage them, because we what they do is they discourage you mentally. Well, there's no point in voting. It's going to go them. They going to do what they want to anyway. Right. And so what's the point? And we have to understand that it's a long con. It's not short game.
Yeah. We're talking marathon.
And so you vote now. Don't look for immediate gratification. Don't look, well, what happened? It's been 6 months.
Right.
There you go. Well, it's not going to be like that. But if you keep plugging, you keep voting, you keep showing up, you keep staying active, then you can be involved and won't have those long times that the Republicans have been playing, like the mayor said, since before I was born. The same reindeer games, but they invest in that kind of long-range planning, and many voters don't.
Right.
We don't look at it like it's a steady progressive march to an end goal of inclusivity.
Yeah.
You got
it.
George, I saved a story for you. I wanted to get your take on. I don't know if you, all of you, have had your genealogy lineage done, but they have done it for President Biden. And as you know, all of the presidents have had, and how far back they go, and one of the elements and discussions about this are those that come from families who were slave owners.
Right.
And so even Barack Obama on that side of the family, his mama side, they had slave owners, and even people like McConnell, who you would imagine, Senator Mitch McConnell and others have a long history in slavery as owners. So they went back and looked at Joe Biden's history with his family. And according to this, the 1800 census shows that Biden's great-great-great-grandfather, Jesse Robinette, and that's Joe Biden's middle name, owned 2 enslaved people in Allegheny County. He had 2. His other great-great-great-grandfather, Thomas Randall, owned a 14-year-old boy in Baltimore County. And so their that's the extent of their ownership of slaves. Not as great, not as extensive as I said, but still, George, he did have in his family background.
Sure did. Any white person you go great probably was a slave owner. It doesn't matter. Even my great granddaddy was a white man, and he owned my.
Excuse me.
My great grandfather was a white man, and he had 21 kids. So they weren't slaves, but he sure as hell worked the hell out of them. So listen to me. So you're not just Biden. It's every white man back in the day owned slaves. That's what they lived for, to own slaves.
Yeah.
People don't ever count that. We count plantation owners, but anybody could own a slave.
Yes.
And there was no house, field, whatever. It was you did whatever I needed you to do. I own you.
Yes.
Right? That's the thing about slavery that people kind of dismiss, is that people thought they actually owned human beings like pets, like pet workers. I mean, like for the animals.
Like the cattle, yeah.
Anybody could do that. And that's something we have to reckon with, that it wasn't all sitting out on the veranda sipping mint juleps. it was a lot of people who couldn't afford anything else,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But they could buy a person.
Like I said, my great granddaddy, Sidney Wallace, took my Aunt Bertha Wallace out of school for her to go back to work the fields. So everybody owned a slave back then. Even I bet even some black people owned some slaves back then.
Yeah.
Wow. It is time for us to. I'm sorry, Mayor.
Just as a total side note, there is a great series on Netflix called High on the Hog.
Yes.
All about African American cuisine, and they start out in Africa, tracing the roots of the food and how all the stuff that we now eat and love. It all started in Africa, in West Africa, and how it came over, and it's a great series. In fact, they just renewed it for a second season.
Oh,
so,
that is great.
okay.
Yeah,
so
it is very.
Ward Field, I think, had a poem called "High on the Hog."
Yes, absolutely.
Good. I love that poem. I heard it.
I think Marsha, that's where it came from. I think that's where the name of the thing came from the poem.
Let us move to something a little bit lighter, entertainment. And Your Honor, I did want to go back to the Nicki Minaj thing, because now the big conversation is about Nicki Minaj saying that she was invited to the White House to discuss the coronavirus situation. And she
they have corrected that, by the way, saying they called her.
Right.
You know how Negroes are doing it. I'm supposed to be. They called her and said, "We will, if you want to have a call, we'll give you the correct information."
The Ice Cube call. It was the Ice Cube call.
So let me. This is how we take things to the extremes. She had already worked out her outfit that she was going to wear to the White House, and she was going to go all in pink, a la Legally Blonde, and so to show him how serious she was about this. And now you got Jen Psaki, the press secretary, saying, "We're gonna call you. It's not so much an invite to the big house. It's it's like." But she has really, she has taken a beating in social media.
Deservedly so.
Yeah.
I mean, this is life or death stuff. This is not some rap battle.
Right. There's no verses or anything like that.
Versus somebody. Mm-hmm. This is life or death stuff, because anybody. She said 33 million followers.
Yeah.
Come on.
So you think about it. If only a fraction of those people are dissuaded, who mostly are young people, by the way. Right. And it's mostly young black people that are not getting vaccinated. Yep. Older black people were smart. They were the first ones in line to get vaccinated, right? Mm-hmm. It's younger black people that are not right. It's younger black people that are not getting vaccinated. So, that's what's so insane about this is you put out something like that. It's like toothpaste out of the tube. It's hard to get it back in now. And for an awful lot of young people, oh my God, well, that's a problem. So another reason for me not to take it. So, something's got to be.
Mayor, why do you think it's such a large number of Southern blacks, though?
Well, a lot of that's access, George. Let me just say this. I'm at least going to say that for an awful lot of black people most black people, we live in the South, number one. That's where we are. For the most part, right? There's no slave ships landed in Las Vegas. I can tell you that. That we are from the South. This is where we are. And there's still an awful lot of people that are rural, that just don't have access, that have not been able to find ways. They haven't have transportation to it. And that I'm at least going to provide that as some rationale for why an awful lot of black people in the South have not gotten vaccinated. But given the incredible publicity and the enormous toll that it's taking, we're dying, literally, like almost dropping dead on the street. Yes. And plus, think about this. It's not just the COVID. It's the fact that we've got the pre-existing conditions.
Right.
So when the COVID jumps on, you got diabetes, you got a heart problem, you've got all these other, and that's what it magnifies. It goes right to the pre-existing conditions, and that causes the death. And obesity, all of these different things that we have in our race. Unfortunately, those are the things that COVID jumped on, and that's what causes our demise. And look, they've now got people that in Idaho, they have no place for anybody to go. There's no room for anybody that can go into an ICU at all.
Right.
Lady and gentlemen, it is time for us to wrap this up. For one more time, can you give us how people can follow you on your social media, Marsha Warfield, please?
Marsha Warfield whatever on all of the platforms. I'm Marsha Warfield. I'm easy to find.
And you are a living legend, so we thank you for doing.
Congratulations once again. So well deserved. Really.
I have paper.
And
Marsha, can you come back
Mayor
with us
Bill,
again? You didn't get to
Mayor
talk
Bill,
much today.
can you talk? Can you give us your information, how we can follow you?
The telephone book. I am not on any social media whatsoever. You got to find me.
Good for you.
And get in contact with me. But I'm easy to find, as George knows, in Atlanta. Everybody, when you're mayor of Atlanta or have been mayor of Atlanta, and thankfully you have so many people who know you and appreciate you, and so there's never difficulty getting in contact with me. Of course, if y'all need to, just call Sybil. Sybil and George. They'll pass it on to me. George every day. George, Bill.
Or we'll just stake out Steak and Shake, and we'll look for you there.
That's a good idea. I like it.
It's time for us to close out with Yogi's Jewels, and as we mentioned, this was also our going inside the minds of people today. Our question today: if you knew, asking yourself, if you knew this was the last time you would see a friend, what would you tell them? So we close out George Wallace. Thank you very much, and appreciate it. Don't forget George's book, Bull Twit. And
I love you, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. Like I said before, Marsha Warfield, you didn't get to talk much today. When you come back with us again, I love you very much.
I got so much from Marsha Warfield tonight. I'm telling you, and I'm looking into that new religion.
Jesus, what was it called? What was it?
Jesus.
She is us. We are she.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks so much, everybody. We appreciate it. Please come back again.
Thank you.